with you. And my question I'd like to start with is, what is it that called you to this particular call, to this subject, so I can kind of address more appropriately the issues? I think you're all MBA students, if I'm not mistaken, and probably going to be looking for a job soon or already have one. Or so what is it about this thing called stress that had you? And you can just write in the chat a few things. And I forgot, I guess Alex was going to read them off, or both of you are going to read them off, I guess, too. So maybe just write a little bit here while we allow other people to get here and get started. And so I can kind of frame it in what your concerns are. Most of my people that I work with are usually older. I spent 30 years, just so you know a little background, I was an organizational development consultant and worked globally. I worked for the European Union for a while. I've worked with Microsoft and Humana and lots of both high-tech and health companies. And I've noticed over the last 40 years of that, the increase in what we would call stress. So a lot of my people are people who have been in organizations for a long time, but I'm really interested in, you know, what is it that really calls you to this conversation, and what do you want out of it? So maybe Alex, you can read some of the things that hopefully people are writing.
Of course. Let's give people one more minute to type into the chat why they're here, what they would like to learn or get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have mindfulness meditation has been really challenging for me. I actually find that it causes a lot of anxiety. I know there are a lot of benefits to it, including stress relief, but it hasn't really worked, so I'm trying to explore alternative tools.
Right.
We have another comment saying, if we're planning to go into a career while we're working hours are long and demands are high, what can we do to prepare from a stress management perspective?
Mm-hmm.
We also have a comment saying how to deal with social environment changing all the time. I'd like to add that I would personally like to get out of this to learn how to deal better with my daily stress. I'm just starting the MBA, or actually in the middle of it, but living through all of these high stress environments and in the middle of the pandemic sometimes is quite a lot to handle.
Yeah.
George is asking, where are ancestors stressed?
Ah, good. One of my favorite topics.
Brenda is actually also struggling with stress. It tends to manifest physically, hair loss, other symptoms. Therapy, they've tried therapy, but it's always useful to find new ways. She's actually about to start her MBA here. For George, stress comes from many different places: uncertainty, anxiety about things, managing stress and managing all of these things is something they're looking forward to learning. And those are all the comments we have so far.
Those are great.
Jessica's wondering how to avoid feeling paralyzed when anxiety kicks in.
Great. Okay, awesome. So all great areas. I could just go through and answer all of them, but let me give you some basics on my particular take on stress. As soon as my dog gets untangled from all the cords here, excuse me. I have a professional love dog. He works with me when I work with people with PTSD and things like that. His name is Buddha, appropriately. So yeah, let me just look for something here that I wanted to. Yeah, so my particular take on stress First of all, when we say we're stressed, what does that mean? We act as though we actually know what it means. And so one of the things I want to make clear on this is that stress is a phantom. In fact, even using the word stress generally makes us more stressed. So I guess the first question really is, what is stress? And from my work for many, many years in this area and working with teams and organizations and organizational leadership, is that when we say, it's kind of like when we say I'm sick. Well, what does that mean? I have a cold or I have stage 4 cancer? It doesn't say anything. When we say we're stressed, it really doesn't say anything. Underneath, though, if we look at that, we're saying something is too much. So the issue is, what is too much when we're talking about stress? And stress, if you want a definition from my perspective of stress, is that my current capacity, it's an important word, my current capacity is insufficient to meet the challenges in my work and personal life at this time. So it's an issue of capacity, and I want to talk about that a little bit. I see stress as an evolutionary ally, as a portal or opportunity for us to actually awaken into fuller presence, embodiment, and more clarity and creativity. So in these kind of chaotic times, I think it's important that we recognize that actually stress is not a problem. I'll address that in a while. But it's an opportunity for growth. And, right now we have a lot of opportunities for growth because there's a pandemic of stress in the world, and anxiety and overwhelm. And just a few statistics that some of you probably already know, more than a third of the people in the workplace, in the global workplace, talk about feeling extreme stress, and 77% of people experience stress that affects them physically. So someone was asking, and we'll talk about that. 73% of the people that were surveyed, and you've probably taken survey research, so you know how that can be skewed, but 73% is reported that they have mental health issues because of the amount of stress that they're experiencing. Particularly, this is mostly in the workplace. Basically, 80% of people in the workplace say they experience stress on a regular basis. And from a medical standpoint, 75 to 90% of all illness is stress related. So this is a big thing that we're talking about. And what we try to do is we try to change the circumstances in order to alleviate stress, like the out there world. But stress is really about an inside job. And it's almost a competition that we have around stress. Somebody will say, oh God, I'm so stressed. I had so much to do today. I have to get ready for finals. I got this, I got that. And the other person will say, yeah, I'm so stressed too. I'm really, and we like build the stress, actually. We get in a conversation that makes it bigger. So as I said, stress is a capacity issue. It's about our inner spaciousness. That may not make a lot of sense, but we'll talk through that. How much stress is my body able to hold in the inner body, the interoception, it's called, my inner body? Mostly we're focused outward, but stress allows us to turn inward. And what fills up that capacity, that space, is unexperienced experiences, undigested experiences from the past. So pretty much all stress can be taken all the way back to not only our early development, our adaptive styles, they call it in psychology. There are different ways that we adapt based on our parenting, And that's based on their parenting. So I was glad that someone asked about ancestral, because we're dealing with personal, individual, familial, collective, and ancestral stress are all part of it. And right now it's just been exacerbated with the COVID issues. But it's really energy that is undigested. Now, what happens is that we have situations in our life where we can't hold it. Like I said, many of those situations are very early, different adaptive styles. Most of us had adaptive styles where, for instance, in my particular age, there was Dr. Spock, and he said, let the baby cry and they'll cry it out, right? That was the thinking back in the 40s, when I was a baby, was if a baby cries, just let it cry. So that's a trauma, because a baby's saying, I need something, I need to be met. And so we're still connected to our caregivers, and we're trying to get something, and our caregivers are either sometimes there and sometimes not there, or sometimes they're not there at all. Sometimes they terrorize us, and sometimes they're actually there on a regular basis. I just defined the 4 different adaptive styles in psychology that form our original relationship to stress. So let's say I'm lying in a crib and I'm crying because I'm hungry and nobody's paying attention to me. So I cry louder, like a baby will do. Hey, I'm trying to get your attention. I need some milk. Hey. And then pretty soon I'm screaming and I'm still not being seen. That is a stress event. The nervous system, which has been evolving for hundreds of thousands, millions of years, kicks in and said, this is too much for this little being. I'm going to shut some part of them down so they can keep on going. And so the energy gets stored in the body as a place that ends up as a numb place. So we have all kinds of stored energy, like I said, not just personal, but ancestral, familial, collective trauma in our body. And this is what gets triggered when we talk about stress. So that frozen past is in our body, and it takes up space and uses our natural capacity. In other words, we have, if you think of it in terms of like random access memory, we have a certain capacity. I've only got, 260, gigs or whatever of capacity. And when that gets filled up, I start drawing on my natural health, my soul's health, and so it affects my body. It creates disease because it's not, there's no more room. I can't have anything. So then I have stress and panic and upset and overwhelm and all of those things. So we become fragmented and overwhelmed, and these things pop up, and it looks like these things are happening now. Stress or trauma, which is at the heart of stress, because we swim in a sea of trauma, is nothing more than frozen past in our body. And when we're having an experience of stress and we think, oh, that's because this thing happened to me at 2 or 5 or 7 or 12 or whenever it happened to me, that hasn't been digested. It hasn't been integrated into my body, my emotions, and my mental and relational capacity. And so, what's needed in stress is to expand that capacity. And we do that by awareness. Now, the important thing to know is that nothing's broken and nothing's wrong and nobody needs to get fixed. It was very intelligent of our nervous system to shut down that part and fill that capacity up with this frozen parts. But when we get triggered, we have a stressful event. And as I was saying, the event is not what's causing the stress. It's the story we made up about the event that causes the stress, that causes the frozen parts of ourselves. So we think, oh, well, I'll have to fix that. But when you try to fix it, you're saying that something's wrong. Well, if everything's happening in this moment and I say I need to fix something, I'm not able to be with the event of stress. I'm trying to be where I think I should be rather than where I am. And the only way you get healing is by being where you are. In other words, deep presence. How do you get there? Well, yes, meditation, contemplation, prayer, movement, dance, those kinds of things allow us to actually touch into these frozen parts of ourselves. So it's never the event that happened. I mean, you could have been raped or molested. You could have had a car accident. It could have been a divorce, an angry fight, seeing your parents fight, all of these things. They all cause this kind of freezing. But it's not the event. And that's really important, because if it were the event, you wouldn't be able to deal with it. But in fact, what there is to do is to be more present to what's happening in my body, in my emotions, in my mental cognition, and in my ability to relate. What heals stress is connection. Connection with myself, with my body, with my emotions, with my mental awareness. And it's not in the chat room. It's not in the head that we do that. We do it in the body. The body is the instrument. If you have stress, you don't go to the mind, you go to the body. Everything is contained in the body. That's the instrument. And that's also the instrument that contains hundreds of thousands, millions of years of ancestral wisdom, which is deeply ingrained in your body. And that's a resource. That's a resiliency. Our ancestors went through famine, went through plagues, went through climate change, went through war, burning at the stake, you name it. They've been through it. So you've been through it through your ancestors. It's in your body. When you're able to integrate these things and digest them, in other words, when I'm able to bring enough awareness to them in my body, and I go, oh, I'm so stressed. Well, that doesn't help, but what's too much? I can't breathe. I've got shallow breathing. It feels like there's a band across my chest. It's a black band. I attune myself, I presence myself in my body, in teroception. I look at what's happening in my body. Ooh, everything's tight. I feel this like suffocation. And I let it know in my body. I say, oh, I see you, you know, and I can ask it, do you have something to tell me? So, oh yeah. And then I have some memories that come up. Oh yeah, that fight between my parents, you know, every time I think there's going to be a fight, you know, and I can't control it, I get really stressed. And so then I go back and I experience that. And by allowing myself to experience it, it literally integrates, and we have more capacity in our body by doing that. So capacity is space, and space comes from inner congruence, alignment, and connection. And so it's what I call deep body listening. And again, it's the awareness that heals, not some, you know, getting rid of it, some fixing, something to do. That actually keeps it stuck. It's awareness is what will help you to deal with stress. If you're in the corporate environment and your boss looks at you funny or reprimands you in front of other people in a meeting, and you leave that. Are you able to leave it in the meeting room? Or are you going to carry that with you for the next day or 2 days, or worry about, oh, I'm going to be fired, he doesn't like me, this is terrible, you know, and then I'm trying to connect with other people, but I'm still in the relationship with my boss, reprimanding me in front of other people. I'm embarrassed, I'm feeling that. But you're feeling something that's coming up from the past. If I'm working with say a Vietnam or Afghanistan vet, let's say, well, let's put it this way. Let's say a vet is walking down the street and he's been in combat, and a backfire happens in a car and he hits the ground, which is not an uncommon thing, by the way. What's actually happening there? Is he remembering what happened in Vietnam? No, he's reliving what happened in Vietnam. Big difference. He's actually there because he's in that frozen place. So there are ways that we work with people that have had that kind of trauma, that's serious trauma, and we work with the contraction and expansion of energy. So the events are really overwhelming. They're like a vortex of energy, and we have to resource ourselves. If we can't self-regulate our stress, then we can be with somebody else who's not being stressed and co-regulate stress. So it's always valuable to have somebody. And a lot of times, you know, we don't want to let people know that we're feeling this because we don't want to appear weak. But if we have somebody that we can sit with, then we can co-regulate the experience and say, wow, I had this experience today with my boss. It triggered something. I was not able to be present. I was feeling sick to my stomach. I wanted to throw up. And but we have somebody that just listens and then say, well, you know, where's that in your body? Oh, it's in my tummy, you know. And you know, and then you trace it back and you say, oh, do you have any memories around that? Is this something that's happened a lot? And oftentimes it'll be, yeah, that happens all the time when I'm in, you know, stressful work conditions with a boss that's, you know, misogynistic or dominating or whatever. And so then you can co-regulate. And now with a group, I do a lot of groups because it works even faster. Then you can regulate in a group. Then somebody says, oh, I had this horrible thing with my boss and I can't get over it. I'm afraid I'm going to get fired. I'm never going to get a raise or move on here in the organization. I don't know what to do. And somebody can then mirror that back and you can create more capacity. So, so I've said a bunch of things here, and I want to just go through some of the things that you talked about. I was trying to do it. So first of all, meditation. Let me talk about that. I'm just going to say a few things about the things you asked about. And you can write more in the chat if you like. Any questions about anything I'm saying, please put them there, and then Alex can read them back. But let's talk about this meditation thing, because it's now clear that meditation is useful. But mostly people who teach meditation are teaching it like, oh, this is going to calm you down and make you more relaxed. And, you know, if you really go deep, you'll see ponies and unicorns and rainbows. And no, that is not meditation. But that's how mostly it's taught. Meditation is about reaching into yourself for finding that still place where everything waits. And what happens, and one of the reasons that you're challenged, I forgot who mentioned that, but one of the reasons you get challenged, who was it said that? Can you wave your hand? I don't know who that was. Anyway, Oh yeah, nice, thank you. Yeah, beautiful. So here's what happens when you meditate. So first you meditate and you get still. You put your feet on the floor, and most of us are perpetual motion machines. And as James Joyce said in one of his short stories, he had a beautiful comment. He said, Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. Most of us live a short distance from our body. We are not fully in our body. I used to say in the corporate world, I work with heads on sticks. The only reason they have bodies is to carry their head from one meeting to the next. And it's true. So we're mostly disembodied. We're mostly disemotioned. We don't feel our emotions in our body. We feel them in our head. So when you begin to realize that mostly all of the stuff about stress we do in the chat room, and you come back into your body and you settle down, you realize, whew, there's a lot going on there. And you close your eyes and you watch your breath, like people would say. And then, at first, it could be kind of calming, and maybe it's just right from the start. You're just frenetic like that, and that's okay. But the thing to recognize, that is meditation. There's no bad meditation. Meditation is meeting and greeting that anxiety, that fear, that anger that has been too much for our capacity to meet in the challenges that we're bringing into ourselves through our work and personal life. So I get still. Now, I start to create a practice, 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day, whatever, an hour. And I start to practice. Well, here's what's going to happen for sure. And by the way, I have a deep dive weekend retreat to teach people this coming up. I think it's at the end. Is it the end of the month, right? The last weekend of the month, Humam, is that right? I think it is. So you're sitting there and you finally kind of get the feel of it, and you say, oh, this is not bad. And all of a sudden, like Buddha talked about, Mara, the monsters start coming up, they're going to eat you, they come up. Ooh, that's uncomfortable. Or energy. I was doing a plant medicine experience a while back, and I was meditating, and my legs started just going like this, and I try to stop it. Okay, I want to get back to and my leg starts going like this. Stop it, And then I went, wait a minute. I'm trying to stop the energy that wants to be released. Let it release. So for a half an hour, I just sat there. My leg was just shaking. It was just old trauma. I come from a background of a lot of trauma, by the way, which is one of the reasons I teach trauma work. So you have to allow that energy to run through you. So many times in a less experienced meditation process or training, and these challenges, these traumas come up, and the teacher will say, handle it on the cushion. No, that is not smart advice. It's a great way to get re-traumatized. And one of the things that makes us anxious is the fact that, that thing that I couldn't control is now coming up, and it's like in my face. And so I need to titrate. I always tell people in my groups, I want you to be safe enough to feel unsafe. Because in that ability to titrate, to do a little bit of into the unsafeness, is when I begin to be able to digest and integrate what's behind this thing that we call stress, which is traumatic events. So that's about the mindfulness, and I can say more about that, but workplace prep, I would say, have a meditation practice and get a good teacher to work with you. Yeah, social change in environment. I forgot exactly how that was framed, but things are always going to be changing. And we have this propensity for wanting to control. but there is no real control. So the antidote to that is to learn how to embrace uncertainty, which of course allows us to step into an entirely different worldview when we move out of perfectionism, which I'm sure a lot of you work with numbers. I'm sure a lot of you have that kind of perfectionist side, and that's a lot about control. And so you're going to get stressed and anxious when you try to control particularly things that are not controllable. So being able to embrace and learn from uncertainty is the aspect there. Again, I'm just going to give short answers to this. The daily stress of being in a pandemic, yes, that's a daily opportunity for that presents you with portals and openings to your own awakening. The more that you can be with what's occurring, the good, bad, and the ugly, the more capacity you have to deal with stress. Ancestors, I could spend many hours talking about ancestors. I think I mentioned a little bit about ancestors, but basically, we need to respect and honor our ancestors, regardless of what they've done. And it's an opportunity for healing, not just for ourselves, but healing the past. I had a woman I was working with recently whose great-grandfather owned slaves and wrote a book about it. And she was embarrassed that her great-grandfather wrote this book about being a slave owner. By really going into the feelings she had and going back, she was able to understand it from an adult perspective and heal it and recognize in that culture that was what was happening. Not that it was right, but she could see it and not make it about her and separate. And so we often say to the ancestors, I honor you and I respect you, and what is yours, please keep it, and what's mine is mine, and thank you for being my ancestors and for all the positive things you've given me. I spoke about uncertainty, and yeah, getting paralyzed, that was the other thing somebody wrote. So I want to spend time interacting with you, because talking about it, there's no worse death than being talked to death anyway. But let's talk about it in real terms. Like, what does that mean in my life? What am I experiencing? So I'd like to spend the last 20 minutes here really interacting with you. And maybe Alex, you could call on people that have their hands up or want to ask things, or so just raise your hand. And I think you just go to reactions and click on the hand to do that.
Nai, go for it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I really related to what you were saying about how meditation is taught these days as like relaxation, but that's not the complete picture. Like, it's great if that's something that people get out of it, but I have a friend who teaches meditation. Like, he's had to like explain to me like what it is, and like we've come to the conclusion that like maybe meditation is not for me because it triggers so much anxiety. But at the same time, he's like, I want you to stay with it because like there is some positivity to be drawn with it, but like don't hold the expectation that it's going to be easy or that it's going to be this one way, or like it's just so frustrating when like people use like Headspace apps, and he's like the guy who's doing the guided meditation, he's like, yes, feel your body melting into relaxation. I'm like, I am not. It's like,
yeah, I totally, yeah, that's, yeah, so true. I thank you for that, for validating and bringing attention to that. And for you, Nai, do you like to dance?
I do like to dance.
Yeah, well, I would suggest 5 rhythms or ecstatic dance or that to work through it, because 5 rhythms, particularly because it's a wave of consciousness that you go through when you do 5 rhythms, and very, very powerful, working with the feminine, with the masculine, with the chaos of the meeting of the feminine and the masculine, with the lyrical, and then the stillness. So that way, it's like when animals get stressed, in other words, they get attacked, and they get hit, say, by a leopard or something, and the zebra, you know, will get hit and then shake it off. That's a natural way. That's the way indigenous cultures actually deal with stress. Sometimes it's weird in the office when you start doing this, you know, but.
It's called five rhythms is what you said?
5 rhythms, yeah. Humam, is there a 5 rhythm person in Barcelona? I think there is. Oh yeah, what's her name? Can't remember her name, but there is someone.
Maybe Michael, after the session, I can get all the list of.
Sure, resources. Again, it's resources for you. I would offer that as a resource, that dance and movement, even walking meditation would be a good way to start. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Beautiful. Yeah, George. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex.
Go ahead, George.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Michael. My background's actually in exploration and adventure, and I was wondering, have you kind of prescribed anyone spending time outside in peace and stillness? Has that been something that's crossed the sort of meditation and the sort of connection between body and mind and nature?
Look where I live. I don't know if you can see it, but I live in the woods. That's my most basic resource. When I talk about resourcing, going into nature and allowing yourself to be held in nature is a huge resource, George. I totally agree. If you're an adventurer, you know, rock climbing, of course, if that's something that calls to you, that intense presence, because what we're wanting to do, I teach a thing called the way of the mystic. And basically it's about presencing, that's zooming in on what's happening in my body, in my emotions, my thoughts, my relationship to the world, outer space, inner space. So I'm presencing, and then I'm witnessing. Witnessing is in meditation when suddenly you have a realization that you're watching yourself thinking, feeling, experiencing. But wait a minute, are there 2 of me? There's the thing that's happening, and then there's the awareness. That's when you've reached a place in meditation where you're moving into a whole nother level of witnessing. So awareness is witnessing. So I go from presencing to witnessing. And when I've then separated that, that narrative, that ego story, the skin encapsulated ego story, I call it, which lives, by the way, in the remembered past, not even the real past, because if you ask your siblings, remember that time, they'll say, that's not how it happened. So it's the remembered past and the imagined future, but we're not present. So in extreme sports, outdoor sports, like you're talking about, whitewater rafting, rock climbing, things like that, you really have to zoom in and presence yourself because your life is dependent on it. Okay, you witness, but the last part to really integrate is embracing it. So let's say I remembered, oh yeah, I'm always getting in trouble in relationships because I think I'm going to get abandoned, and then I get abandoned. And I remember when my parents got a divorce and I felt abandoned. You go into that feeling, you take little George and you put him on your lap and say, hey, George, remember that time your parents were fighting and they split up and you felt, you know, so abandoned? Well, I'm here for you now, the adult George. And I want you to know that I love you and I care for you and I'm here for you. That allows you then to integrate that experience so it's no longer the threat, but it's integrated into your space. You increase your capacity for stress. That makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. And for those of us who can't get access to a climbing wall or safe climbing walls and things, would you think that maybe going for a swim in the sea, something that's a cold water swimming, is that something that you're interested in, keen on?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Another resource you might look at is Wim Hof or breath work.
No, very well.
Yeah, Wim Hof's a wild man, but I also am trained in breath work, and I use that a lot in doing it too. So cold water and being able to regulate with your breath is a really great stuff. I love swimming in freezing alpine lakes to wake myself up. Yeah, it's cool. Thanks, George.
All right, Michael. I'll pop a little picture in the chat so you can see one of my cold swims.
All right. I love it. Thank you. Okay.
Shamar, you can go ahead.
Cool. Hi, Michael. Thank you so much. It's been very interesting. I just wanted to share, I really enjoyed what you said about when you're meditating and your body starts to vibrate. And I actually never thought of that. I try to practice almost every day, and there are times that my body is just like very jittery. I have no idea what's going on. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, you're ruining my meditation. But I think what you shared is very insightful, and I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. What I do have a question.
Let me say one thing before you go. I got to remember to say this. There's only one ruined meditation. That's the one that didn't happen.
Okay.
Everything else is a great meditation.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep that in mind, and that goes well into the next question I have. In working with people, I always hear that, you know, they're trying to develop a meditation routine or trying to do this, but they want to do it and they're never able to do it. What would you say would be one piece of advice to try and, you can't force people to do something, but to make them see or help them build it into their routine?
Yeah, well, you know, first thing, trying is not doing, and that's the absence of doing. And you're right, you can't force people to do it. The only thing you can do is be a space for meditation to show up around you by having a powerful practice. Your presence will call people into it. You're telling them that they should do it. It's like climate change. You can tell people till you talk them to death about why climate change is important. But if they're not open to being there, they're not going to hear it. The same with meditation. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mark. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brenda, please.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi. For me, actually, it's not new, like the ancestors, trying to remember that, because I've worked that before with a therapist, and it was good because it made me realize like all the baggage I was having from before. However, I do believe that somehow when I feel stress or difficult situations, my body starts to put that, because as I mentioned, I had some hair loss, my tummy aches, and I'm trying to think at that moment, okay, what is happening to me? What is troubling me? But I can't seem to find like something, because when I start thinking, like I have so many thoughts that I have a headache, and then I just go to sleep and try to put like a band-aid and go on with my life. But I think that's obviously not the solution. So what can we do there?
It's very clear, Clara. So the issue is that, to be blunt, you're in your head, and you can't stop that in your head. You have to just go to the body. We think our emotions, we don't feel them. Thinking emotions, for instance, like feeling is a thought. Happiness is a thought in my mind. Joy is a feeling in my body. They're not the same thing. Anger in my mind will cause the same chemical reactions in my body, like you're talking about. Your upset is chemicals that are being released in your body, cortisol and other chemicals that are being released. That's what's causing it. But you can't go from your head to changing that. You can only go to the sensation and the feeling that you're having and make friends with it. And if it's too much, then work with someone, a therapist or someone that's skilled at that, to co-regulate, that says, Brenda, where are you now? Come back to your body. You've gone to your head. So can you feel, where's your energy right now in your body?
Right now is a lot in my head, like trying to process.
It is exactly, isn't it? Yes. So you can do that. It's right from your here up. All your energy is up here. Right?
Yeah.
So, but you can see it. That's what there is to do, is just notice, oh, I'm in my head, go to my body. What's happening in my body? And one of the things that's really important is the places that you're numb. I can feel places in your body being with you that you're numb. That's not nothing. Numb is something. Numb is information. You go to the numbness and feel the numbness. And you go, whoa, what's this? No, not what it's about, why you have it, you know, what it should be, where, if I did this, if I didn't do that, all that stuff that's up here, you just be with the numbness. Because that's your nervous system protecting you from something that happened a long time ago. So honor your nervous system, and your nervous system is saying, this girl ain't ready yet. She's not quite ready to feel the feelings that are associated with whatever it was happened that you suppressed, you dissociated, you had a sense of soul loss, that somewhere to protect you, the intelligence. So I can't say it enough. There's nothing broken. This is an intelligence. This is the intelligence of the universe wanting to talk through you. You know, that's who we are. We're the universe's way of seeing itself. We're just disconnected.
Thank you.
Capiche?
Yeah, I do. It actually makes a lot of sense. Like, we're actually always trying to think a lot, overthinking actually, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's
And
when
again,
we
all
get
and
lost
all
in
you
ourselves.
need to do is notice it. It sounds really like, wait, I have to do something. No, it's just noticing. That's all. Yeah, you got it. Thank you. It's beautiful, Brenda. Thank you. Lovely to be with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Brenda. I have a follow-up question. When you recognize what you're feeling, what your body's trying to tell you, how can you relate it to the different parts or the different stressors or traumas that you've lived before? What I mean is, you recognize you feel stress or you feel it in your body, but how do you know what it's trying to tell you and what it's related to from all of the different stressors or traumas that you've had in the past?
You don't
or do
know.
you need therapy to understand that?
You don't know, and you won't know by trying to figure it out, but it knows. It's about connecting with your relationship with the pain or the experience that you're having. It will tell you. It will show you what it is. But you see, we're trying to control, we're trying to figure it out, we're trying to fix, we're trying to be somewhere other than where we are. When you're in a corporate environment, things are moving fast. You need to be able to presence yourself. It's a verb, presencing. I'm presencing myself in this situation. I'm feeling scared. I'm having a memory of this. Maybe it's not the time to allow yourself to go into it, but make a note. Then coming home from work, I sit down and I go to the cushion and I say, show me more of this that's in my throat. See, that's a place you hold stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's hard. You don't want to have that feeling. You don't want to feel that way, much less to relive it.
Yeah.
But I understand how that helps.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful, Alex. That's gorgeous. Yeah, so it's trusting. Life wants to live through you. There's nothing broken. You are not broken. You do not need fixing. No matter what someone's trying to tell you or sell you to fix you, you are not broken. You're just out of connection. You're not connected to certain parts. And that's because the intelligence of the larger system of which you're a part says it's not safe right now to go there. And just notice that. And then you'll feel, Alex, softening in your throat and an opening of the chest where that tightness comes, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have one more question here in the chat. What happens when you're on the other end? You're not the stressed one, but you're the person that someone's coming up to tell their stories or what they're going through. How can you become a better listener or a supporter from someone who's suffering stress and anxiety?
Thank you for that question. Who was that from?
This was Martha.
Marta? Thank you. Yeah, that's a really important question, and thank you for asking it. It's wonderful. Yeah, we're all healers, and what is it that allows us to heal is being present in the face of another person's pain. Now, a lot of people are really attached to their story. In fact, most of us are attached to our story. Remember what I said, our narrative, our who I am when I say I, that story is a closed loop system. So its only purpose is its own survival. So sometimes when you're with someone with grace and humility and compassion, you might need to stop their story and say, I get what's going on, but what are you feeling right now? Or maybe, I want to support you. And if you can feel yourself feeling them, feeling you, you're connected. So that creates co-regulation. That's what I do with people, is to sit with somebody with those issues and receive that. But if their story has taken over, you do need to intrude in that case. There is a kind of like, and some people just are not going to give up their story. Then there's just nothing you can do, except if you get triggered by them being in their story, then work on your own compassion. That's the only option that's left then, is just develop compassion for how stuck some people can be. And we humans can get really stuck because it's
Thank you
scary.
very much for the answer.
Yeah, you're welcome, Marta. Thank you for the question. It's really a great question.
No, I think it's important to put I think one of the main problems in all that is that it's hard to get help, to ask for help.
Yes.
And I think always, as in everything, right? Involving someone you love, it helps.
Yeah, what you just said, Marta, I would say, we talk in universals often. I would say it's hard for me to ask for help.
Sure.
Bring it home to your body, bring it home to your experience of that. Because when we generalize it like we all, or like that, we lose the teaching that's in the event. So it's hard for me to ask for help. That's a whole different thing. Then you can go into your body. You're not in the body human, you're in your body saying, oh, that's interesting. It's hard for me. What does that mean? Where is it in my body? Can I feel that? I feel constricted in my breath when I say that. It's hard to breathe. Does that remind you of anything? Has it happened before that it was hard to get help? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I remember that time when, so-and-so said I couldn't do this, my mother or my father, something like that. And I decided it's really hard to get help. And that shapes your narrative, your worldview. Yeah. Thanks, Marta.
Thank you.
Did that communicate with you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay. Well, we're getting to the end of this. It's so lovely. I'd love to spend more time with you. I'm on to the next thing here, but you're welcome to write me if you're interested in doing coaching work. Ask Humam. He's someone that's worked with me quite a bit. You can schedule a 15-minute call if you really want to do that, if you need that. And I really invite you to join the deep dive meditation. Did you get the dates of those, Humam? I think it's 27th or something.
Yeah, I think it's May 22nd and 23rd.
Oh, 22nd and 23rd? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you can find that on the welloflight.com. And Humam, maybe you can send it out to everybody, or Alex. Just let everybody know. And I just want to say thank you. I'm really honored to spend time with you. You know, I'm here on a farm with a lot of young people, and I just am so thrilled to see people looking at meditation and this kind of healing and awakening. And, you know, we have a lot of big issues coming down the pipe, and it's going to affect you in your personal life and in your work life. And, you know, I always say to people, connection is the currency of the future. And the more connected we are, the more we can change the world. And so whatever's between you and being connected, that's where the work is, where we disconnect from life, from each other. Because life wants to live through you and be expressed through you. And it's just a joy and an honor to be with you. So thank you so much. And take care.